Welcome Nottingham to the Nottingham Board of Selectmen for February 3rd. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you guys mind if I give Tom 3 minutes before the meeting? Nobody has objection to that?
That's fine.
So we're going to start the meeting off with Tom Buchetic. I just spelled the name wrong, but who wants us to do a brief statement to the board?
Hi, Thomas Budkevich, Washington Lane. So a number of weeks ago at the budget hearing, I was repeatedly interrupted and silenced during the public comment period. The chair made claims that all public comments must be directed solely to him as the chair, and that I was not permitted to address or direct comments towards specific members of the committee. After the meeting, I did quite a bit of research on this, and then I emailed the town administrator my findings. The U.S. Supreme Court has clearly articulated that above all else, the First Amendment means that the government may not restrict speech because of its message, its ideas, subject matter, or its content. Furthermore, the courts have repeatedly established that restricting personally directed speech, as was done at that meeting, is an unconstitutional and impermissible content-based prohibition on speech that violates the First Amendment. So these are some of the cases that I was able to find. There's plenty more. Most recently, Moms for Liberty versus Brevard Public Schools 2024 challenged prohibitions on personally directed speech after the chair of a school board interrupted and silenced members of the public for addressing or questioning board members individually, requiring instead that all statements be directed to the presiding officer. The U.S. Court of Appeals found that such restrictions were unconstitutional. In the opinion of the court, quote, plaintiffs say that their speech was chilled and silenced at Brevard County School Board meetings. According to the board's presiding officers, their comments were abusive, personally directed, obscene, or some combination of all three. Because the first prohibition was viewpoint-based, the second was both unreasonable and vague, and the application of the third was at a minimum unreasonable, these policies are unconstitutional.
Are you going to read every single state, everything one of
That
those?
was the longest one.
Okay.
This won't take that long.
All right, I'm just asking because I didn't know.
In Eisen versus Madison Local School Board District of Education in 2021, the U.S. Court of Appeals invalidated a policy restricting abusive, personally directed, and antagonistic public comments during board meetings. The court explained that these restrictions prohibit speech in violation of the First Amendment. In Marshall versus Amuso 2021, U.S. District Court concluded that allowing for the interruption or the termination of public comments deemed personally directed was facially unconstitutional. In Moore versus Asbury Park Board of Education 2005, the U.S. District Court determined that prohibiting comments that were personally directed at school board members was a content-based restriction on speech and had the effect of an impermissible viewpoint-based restraint. In Baca versus Moreno Valley Unified School District 1996, there was also an invalidation of a similar policy impermissibly impacting the rights of speakers during these events. This was especially egregious because this was a public hearing that was designed specifically to obtain public testimony and comment. I noted in my email to the town administrator that I don't wish the taxpayers to incur any expense over this incident. I merely requested a public apology and for the town to provide assurance that all future public hearings and public comment periods will be conducted in accordance with First Amendment protections. I received a very fast response from the town administrator that I appreciate. In which she thanked me for contacting her and said that she would ensure that our processes comply with constitutional protections, that was of the utmost importance, and that she would speak with the chair and review the importance of adhering to First Amendment rights during public comment periods and fostering an environment where voices can be heard without interruption or restriction. I got that, and I thought that was great, and I went to the school public hearing a night or two later, and everything was fine. The rules were not stated like that. We didn't have any problems. I thought this was great. And then I went to the deliberative session on Saturday here, and I got the rule sheet that was handed out. I read this. There's nothing on here about directed speech or anything like that, so I thought this is great. This is a solved issue. But then I was pretty quickly interrupted and silenced for directed speech. I explained that this was unconstitutional, and I motioned to the town administrator to please, step in, but disappointingly, the town administrator remained silent. So much for assuring that there would be First Amendment protections at the future meetings. During the break, I spoke with the town administrator. She told me that the moderator sets the rules and that I should direct my speech through the moderator, thus modifying the content of my speech. I made it clear that I intend to continue to direct my comments and questions to whomever I wanted, and that she should talk to the moderator, because if I continued to be interrupted and silenced for my directed speech, my only recourse would be to continue to speak and let the moderator order for me to be removed from the meeting, at which point it would have to become a court case. Ultimately and unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. The moderator had me removed for continuing to attempt to ask a personally directed question in violation of her unconstitutional content-based restriction on speech. New Hampshire RSA 44 sets the duties of the moderator. It says that the moderator may prescribe rules of proceeding, but such rules may be altered by the town. The moderator is not allowed to set unconstitutional policies. This rule sheet contains no rule that says that I have to direct my speech through the moderator. It's not written anywhere on there. So my question is, why were the rules not altered by the town to conform with established constitutional free speech protections? The town had over 2 weeks advance notice. The town administrator was asked during the meeting to correct this. The town administrator talked to the moderator during the break for a number of minutes behind the projection screen. Did the town administrator tell the moderator that she could continue to enforce an unconstitutional policy on directed speech?
Tom?
Please let me finish. Or did the moderator refuse to stop enforcing an unconstitutional policy in order to silence and embarrass someone she disagrees with? Even if the constitutionality of the rule...
Sounds like you're personally attacking her right now.
Well, I'm done with that part. Can I just please finish?
Okay, as long as
Thank
you
you,
said you
John.
finish that, then...
I'm done with that part,
Okay,
John.
move.
Even if the constitutionality of this rule is unclear, wouldn't it have been faster and easier to just let me finish speaking for a minute than to constantly interrupt and threaten me with removal? I ask you, is it disorderly to stand up for one's constitutional rights and continue to speak after exhausting all other options of redress with the town administration? Should a moderator be allowed to continue to make content-based prohibitions on speech after the town has been informed that such prohibitions are unconstitutional? Is it possible to violate a rule of proceedings if such rule is not actually present in the rules and has been repeatedly declared to be unconstitutional by the courts? Was I out of order for firmly asserting my right to make a public comment, or was the moderator out of order for violating my freedom of speech? For me, this is a matter of principle, of protecting our First Amendment rights to free speech. I don't want to file a court case on this, but tell me, what other options do I have left to ensure that the citizens of this town will never again be interrupted or silenced using unconstitutional directed speech rules? I've come before you tonight in hopes that you can find a way to resolve this issue without anyone having to waste time and money on a lawsuit, whether that be making assurances that this will not happen again in the future, issuing an apology, or asking for a resignation. I hope that we can find a way to solve this without any expense to the taxpayers of this town. And I also want to thank the police chief and her officers for being incredibly professional during this incident. We're lucky to have these people protecting our life, liberty, and property. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, we're going to go on to approve our manifested minutes.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable for February 3rd, 2025, and payroll for February 4th, 2025.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the public and non-public minutes for January 27th, 2025.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This is for the payroll manifest. Board meetings, well, nothing because I already told you about it all last Monday. And we haven't had a meeting, so I have nothing to report from mine, or if anything's changed with anybody of the committees
Nope.
from last week? Nope.
Do we have a
Great.
date for the next CIP yet?
We said we would do it
in February,
in February after these.
after
So
deliberative
we need to
session.
set a date for that.
Okay. CIP.
Yeah. I think we tentatively said next week,
Okay.
so I don't know if there's a date that works. for people.
Town administrator, any stuff to report?
Sure. I don't have a formal report, but I did have one piece of general correspondence that I wanted to go over with you for a response. It was in response to an email we received January 30th from Eugene Reed regarding the purchase of the police department's UTV. He was looking for records to show the line item transfers the Board of Selectmen approved to make the purchase. That would include the lines to and from which money was approved by the Board of Selectmen and the amounts transferred. I had Betsy pull together the police department budget report for year-end 2024. And I just wanted to put it out there to the public, and I will include it in a response to Mr. Reed, that there was actually no line item transfer approved when you approved the purchase of the UTV. The agreement was that you were going to expend it from the police department's equipment line, that budget could absorb it due to the lack of filling all the positions. Last year, there was money left in the salary line. So
The remainder came from ARPA.
and then the remaining came from ARPA. So the total purchase price, just so I can put it out there to the public, you had approved up to $20,000. The total purchase price was $19,968.22. $9,200 of that was from ARPA. So coming from the police department equipment procurement and maintenance line was a total of $10,768.22. So that's where that line item came from. So I'll just summarize that in a response back to Mr. Reed, but I didn't know if you had anything else that you would like to add into that.
That's part of the confusion, I think, with when people think about the line items in the budget. It's not each individual, like,
It's not the individual
Police
line
department's
items,
all-
it's the fund,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
the function code.
right.
Right, it's the lines that are.
Well, it's also-
But if you had supplies in the, like in the recycling center, when we had to spend more on bags, it's like you don't have to move money from bags to supplies in the recycling center.
Right,
It's these MS 737
Right.
lines. So which are the ones that get listed in the town report.
Right.
correct. And again, so like if we go back to RSA 3210, which he quotes within his email, and I'll actually refer back to a comment that Tim had made. Subsection C states, a statement comparing all legislative body appropriations against all expenditures shall be deemed adequate for purposes of the records required by subparagraph B, so long as every expenditure has been properly authorized and classified and entered, and any expenditures exceeding the original legislative appropriations are offset by unexpended balances remaining in other appropriations, in which case the governing body shall not be required to designate the specific source of said transfer. So I will just include that in the response as well. Any other comments or thoughts for that? Yeah, okay. So I did want to just put out a public statement. Apologies, it's always in our best effort to make sure that using the technology that we have to be able to televise and broadcast, especially public meetings, deliberative session was an important one. I thought by having the extra provisions set up to do a YouTube live feed in addition to Channel 22 would cover all bases, but unfortunately we had technical difficulties with both. Channel 22 was live in bits and pieces, and the YouTube feed shut down after an hour and 55 minutes, and then when I got that back up and running, it shut down after an hour and 20, so there was gaps, obviously, but I am happy to report that fortunately, even though it was not broadcast live to Channel 22 as everybody would have liked from the convenience of their home to view it, it did do a recording. So that is being downloaded right now. It was quite a long process. It was 3 hours and 47 minutes in total, our meeting. So once we get that downloaded, we'll have a link to the deliberative session posted on the town's website for anybody that missed it and wants to go back and hear the conversation. But for those that were in attendance, I think it went relatively well. There weren't a whole lot of amendments that were made, just a couple of real fine-tuned details, and I will have a summary of those amendments posted to the website as well, hopefully by tomorrow.
does it fail because it's such a long meeting, or because
I'm not
it's
really
so
sure,
low from-
I'm not sure what the failure was. The only thing I could think about with the YouTube live feed was that, I think I was connected to the public Wi-Fi, and I think everybody in that room was also connected in some facet that had a smartphone or some type of a device. But other than that,
Upping the band here for the Wi-Fi so that it's more, because even when I'm like, I can't send a text message now if I wanted to.
we do have, it's not in here, we have it in the office. We do have, an expander, or, I can't even,
Well, because even the Historical Society bitched about it in the past, about not having.
the
you can't
Wi-Fi
get any
capability.
Wi-Fi right there in the building. And I mean, it can't, I don't know what the cost level is, but, you know,
So,
I mean, this should
with-
be, this area here even should be kind of
Right.
a free Wi-Fi area for anybody even to come and just get on the Wi-Fi if you're in town.
So I am working with Comcast. We've upgraded the phone and the internet broadband signal. I'm still working through that process, but hopefully we'll be on an upgraded service very shortly here. So we should be receiving a better bandwidth, and hopefully we can rectify that problem. So I can only speak to the YouTube Live as to why that didn't happen. I had gone through, I used the mobile cart. We have a mobile cart that was originally set up in Conference Room 2 to record those meetings many years ago. I dusted that off. I don't know the last time that it was used, but I, of course, wasn't familiar with it. Went through, did a couple of dry runs. Steve sat through with it. And we were able to get a live feed, and I thought everything was good to go, but obviously it wasn't. So the fortunate part that there is at least a recording, and we will have that available so people can go back and watch and hear the conversations that took place. With the conference room transition over into the community room out back, we will have new AV equipment, and hopefully this will be a thing of the past, and we will be bigger and better than ever, but we are working on outdated technology and doing the best we can with it, so thank you for all sticking through it.
Do you think we'd consider having, obviously we have a year to think about it, but having that deliberative there? I just thought it was easier to hear people than in the school gym. I'm just not sure if space would be.
Major
an issue.
kudos to Doug Cummings for that. He was able to fine tune our audio system and make sure that it was good and audible to those present. And it also worked well with the recording as well.
Also added, listening, it was harder to get going.
Well, for YouTube, it would have been because it was just going off a Wi-Fi microphone. I think when I get the recording uploaded from the regular system, the channel 22 feed, you'll find that the quality's a lot better.
If you were in the room, you could still hear everybody ask questions, you could still hear
Barely
everything.
without a mic.
Even with the mic not being the greatest we're talking to, you could still really understand. Again, I think the smaller size rooms
Right.
is a lot better, and I think you'll see that difference tomorrow at the, I mean, it's a Wednesday.
Would have been nice to have
Go to school.
a better projector. So we could have.
Again, first year for it, little lighting.
I know.
things, darken it up a little.
And I guess the only other comment that I want to make on it is, I mean, last year we chose to do a YouTube live feed because we didn't have money in the budget to have Access AV or the company that came out and had done it for us in the years past. I mean, that does come with a price tag. It was $2,600, I believe, for them to do a live feed. And again, you know, deliberative session is one of those things where you have to be present in order to have your voice heard and to
Right.
make.
So watching it 3 days later on YouTube, I don't think if somebody can, what's the difference if you couldn't see it live and you can see it 3 days later?
Right.
It's the same thing.
But
In the
hopefully,
past, I think people used to, when it was town meeting, they would watch, so then they'd know, okay, I need to go down, so that.
but hopefully at least having the recording to fall back on, people can go back and they can listen to the conversation and make an educated vote based on
But that will be
conversations that
available.
took place.
And the other thing, watching it from home, the screen you had people project there, you couldn't see that at all.
You
Right.
couldn't even see when you were there.
Really?
But that was available, so I did link that on the town's page under the town deliberative session. There's a link to that PowerPoint presentation in a PDF form.
But again, thank you for Doug Cummings, acknowledging him for his time and effort that he stuck in. You know, he doesn't have to do it, but it was nice that he, with his experience, to step up and help the town. So again, Doug, if you're watching, we do appreciate your assistance in this.
And he's probably yelling at you right now for not talking into your microphone.
Probably, because he does watch.
Well, when I see him as the selectmen, as the planning board, I'll give him a thanks there too. So, it's in the minutes. Is that all?
That's all I have for my report.
Okay. We don't have anything for assessing. Action items. Raymond Road tabled.
Told you it was gonna be a late meeting.
Right? Okay, so move on there. So we're gonna go to our appointments for 5 o'clock. 7 o'clock, sorry. I'll get there. Chad Roberg and New Hampshire DRA, if you guys wanna come up to the table. We're gonna talk about the reval kickoff.
I'd like to point out, Ellen is ahead of schedule. She told us 7. Nice job. I'm fine with this. Yeah.
Get you out of here before the
Normally,
storm.
they tell me, I'm sorry. Normally, I get a time, and it's like, I'm sitting there for, way past, so nice job. My name's Chad Roberge.
Ben LaFond and
Bill Loranger.
Bill and myself are from the Department of Revenue. He just decided to sit in the middle for
Keep them separated. And I'm from Avatar Associates. So this year is going to be your update year. It's a cyclical, which means that over the past 5 years, we've been doing data verification at all the properties and doing new construction every year. But this is the 5th year in that contract, so now we're going to be doing the update to all the values. So we're going to be taking a market analysis, looking at all the recent sales. I think we've got enough sales in Nottingham where we're only going to be looking at 2024 and the sales in 2025 that are the newer ones for our analysis. And then we'll be sending out preliminary notices to people. That's when you guys usually hear about all the phone calls and the probably stopping you and asking, have you seen the new values? Because they're going to be going up quite a bit, because the last time we did this was 2020. So just after COVID, but before.
Right,
really
the last
all that
report we
market-
found was you guys, you felt the town was at like 66% from the
Yeah.
100, so that's
It's a huge increase.
huge.
Yep. So that would be a big jump. The nice thing is, I think predominantly it'll be a similar percent increase for everyone in town, with the exception there might be properties along the lake that see more of an increase to the general public, which is common, right? Because those are the properties that are in the highest demand, so they typically appreciate a little bit faster. But overall, tax burden shift you shouldn't see too much of it. So we'll be doing a lot in our letter for preliminary to let people know that, like, yes, your value is jumping up, maybe 66%, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but that tax rate is going to adjust in December, so you're not going to see a huge jump in your taxes. Even with all that work we do with that letter and letting people know, there's still going to be people that file appointments and they're going to be thinking their taxes are going to be doubling, and we try to calm them down. We've been doing it over since 2020. Every reval after 2020, we've been experiencing pretty much what we're going to experience this year, where people will take that new assessment and multiply it by the current tax rate and freak out. So we'll probably have a lot of hearings, but it's overall, it usually is just a calming period to bring people back down. And that's pretty much, I think I'll try to give you a general, so we will typically do the analysis April. We'll try to do the field review. We're gonna try to shoot for June. You guys have a lot of sales, so you'll be one of our first towns. Some of our smaller towns that have less amount of sales, we try to push them out so we can get a better analysis. But Nottingham, you guys have a good amount of sales, so we should get.
Will you be able to tell the residents where you'll be going, or when you go to, like, are you gonna do certain areas in town for that reval and say, listen, we're gonna be on Pawtuckaway Lake on Tuesday and Wednesday of these days doing the area, so that those residents know when they see your car pull up, or they see like this, that they have an idea that it's you, or?
We
is it
could
just
try to
something-
give them the week that we're gonna be in town.
Well,
It's
that'd be-
tough.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
just something that says, hey,
Oh, absolutely.
so we can at least let them know, because that's one of the biggest probably concerns you always hear is, who was this guy in the white van that showed up and he wasn't dropping off a package?
Yeah.
He
No,
walked all the way
absolutely.
around my house.
So
That's where, or just for, we've heard it all. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter
yeah.
if you
No,
did or you
absolutely.
didn't.
I think
You know
that's a
what I'm
great
saying?
idea.
just as, when he's doing the field review, he's just gonna be going in his car, parcel by parcel.
Well, perfect.
Okay, just so the public's not expecting him to get out, that's not part of the field review.
But this is, I mean, this is the stuff we heard over the
A
past.
white box van driving
White
slowly
box
down,
van,
down through the
blacked out
neighborhood.
windows.
Stopped in front of me, some notes in his car. He's coming back at midnight tonight.
Yeah, no, you'll still get those calls. I think it actually is worse because I think they can see us on the cameras, like drive in front of their house and stop, but not pull up the driveway, and that freaks them out even more. Because, but yes, no, I think typically Nottingham takes us about 2 weeks, but each week I could probably try to give you an idea, or the police an idea of which area of town we'll be
Because
in.
we can put the next little report.
Your vehicle does have,
Oh yeah, we're marked vehicle. My vehicle has lights on it, so people, we're not trying to be inconspicuous. We're very conspicuous in terms of what we're trying to do. And like I said, and like Ben said, we typically don't go up the driveways even. The only time we will usually go up driveways is if it's a long driveway and we can't see.
Where the people's houses are.
No, so we should have already tried to do that. So the cyclical reevaluation is that over a 5-year period, we've been going to people's houses, and it's 20% each year. So we should have already been to everyone's home and requested, if they weren't home, we should have already requested, like, hey, you weren't home during the time that we were there. Would you like to set up an appointment? And I don't know how the stats, but
Bring up one thing, in the contract, he will be going to the sales that he's using for the analysis.
That's true.
So he'll be visiting those, and part of our monitoring is in that, is part of the contract, is that he goes to the sales and then we monitor, that's part of our field work that we do. So we'll be sending out postcards to random sales, that he visited. And, there's a phone number on there for them to call us if they don't want us to come, but then Bill will be out there.
Basically a card that looks like this,
Yeah,
and it'll explain what the DRA role is in this process. And they have the opportunity to opt out of a visit from us. And again, we just do exterior. Since COVID, we don't go inside either. And the homeowner will have a chance to opt out and visit from us, so.
so needless to say, the people that have recently purchased a home in town will get a crash visit from both of us possibly in 1 year.
And ours is, it's just a random sampling of sales that they've used.
Is it a percentage or a certain amount?
it's a percentage. Well, we have like a statistics thing
Okay.
that does it, does a random sample, and there's some threshold that we have to meet.
And we also will check in with the police department when we're in town, as well as the town assessing people.
And DRA just does that as like an auditing process?
Correct.
Yeah,
And we're in state vehicles, state
Right,
marked
right.
vehicles.
So you're auditing Avatar, basically?
Yeah,
A sampling of everything.
We're-
We
we're
can't look at
charged.
every property.
No, so you guys showing up for a second visit is a good thing?
We'll follow up behind the assessor.
Yep.
yeah, the state's charged with monitoring the contract that's in place, and part of that contract is the sales. So we go out to that. Another thing that we do is that they have to produce something called a USPAP report, which is a big lengthy report of how they did the reval, and we review that to make sure it has all the components needed for people to understand it and make sure everything's in that. So that's another part of the state's involvement.
Yeah, during that cyclical process, that 5-year period, they were also monitoring and doing a quality check on our work for that process as well. Essentially just to make sure that we're doing what we say we're gonna do in the contract and following what we say we're gonna do in our lister's manual. So the field review, I'd say May, June, and then the hearings will probably have July, August. So the hearings is when we send out that notice that says, the hearings will be in July, August. Yep.
So will every homeowner get a report saying this is where we revalued your house?
Yep, so they'll get a,
Come your January bill will be there.
yeah, well, it doesn't say anything
Or-
about the bill, because you don't know what your tax
Right,
rate is
right,
yet.
right, exactly.
So it'll say, here's your preliminary value, don't use it and your current tax rate to come up with your taxes. And actually what we started doing is telling people what the general level of assessment is, so they can kind of get an idea of, all right, is my value higher than that general level? Does that mean my tax burden is gonna be up or down? That kind of has helped people. But that letter also has an appointment link that they can go in and set up an appointment to talk with us. We do things over the phone now, especially in lake communities. We find it's easier, because especially if we're gonna be doing it in August, sometimes people might not be up to have a physical appointment. So we do everything by phone. If people make a recommendation, a request that they'd rather have it in person than over phone, we do accommodate that. Because obviously we do have some people that would prefer to have it in person rather than over the phone. After those hearings, that's when we'll finalize everything and give everything back to the town, as long with the total town value, and then we'll try to get the, that was one done, we try to get the, tax rate set so that everyone can figure out where they're gonna be standing come December.
What's the format of the hearings?
It's I think each taxpayer, we give them about 30 minutes, but what we do is we get a list per day, but we have 2 assessors running the list. So if someone needs a longer period of time, we can accommodate that. So everyone gets as long, or as amount of time as they need to kind of discuss and go over everything. We don't ever cut anyone off and say like, hey, your 30 minutes is up, sorry.
And where is that held?
It's over the phone. But if it's in person, we'll try to set up a time, a one day here in the
I'm sorry,
Nottingham
you did
office.
say that. I was thinking something different when you were
Yeah.
saying hearing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It used to be, all the hearings used to be in person, but just since COVID, we've been using the online, and then we got such positive feedback from that from taxpayers, because it was just easier. They could do it right from work. The biggest positive was that, like, sometimes people would come, and because we don't cut people off, they're sitting and waiting, whereas now it's a phone call and we're calling them. So they can be at work and not have to stress about, you know, missing lunch or whatever. We just call them and they're all set, ready to go. So yeah, that's my spiel. This is also part of your cyclical review, so this is the DRA's portion, kind of.
So pretty much what I had said before, we go out and visit the sales, we monitor the USPAP report. Do you guys have any plans for like public relations for it, letting people know? Is it on your website? Do you have like a newsletter or anything like that to let people know that this is happening?
It will definitely be on the website.
Okay. Yeah, it's just kind of, sometimes, surprisingly, taxpayers might not know what's happening. And
May or
then,
may not have a newsletter.
then they see their value and they freak out. So it's just kind of good to let people get out ahead of it, that type of thing.
You know, over the years, you can promote so much stuff and let them know. The people that aren't gonna pay attention are just not gonna pay attention.
They're not gonna pay
Just to
attention.
get
and-
back to the, like, some people will see this and think it's junk mail.
Yeah,
And then throw
yeah,
it out.
It's just gonna I mean,
yeah.
we have to expect that you're gonna get 5% of the people out there that are just gonna freak out because,
Yeah,
no, we've had this conversation right here.
yeah,
It's in our minutes, it's here, it's there everywhere, but
yeah. And,
I will say though, from experience, it is good to have those things out there.
yeah.
Because at least when people say, well, how come you can point to like 5 different things, like we had a town meeting about it, we had this about it, so it is nice to even have it, even if, I think Kelly used to put it right, you guys have a mat and you're assessing the
Over
counter
there.
there, and she used to have a bunch of paperwork there just for people to see, and I think she had things there for people to take.
well, it's even now, it's time enough where we can actually stick something on the board, maybe in the town clerks, for when people are coming in to do their dog registrations, their boat registrations and all that stuff now. There'll be something at least on the board there that says an orange
Something from
paper.
Election day too.
And I don't know if you guys stuff your own envelopes, but we can put something in with the first bill too.
We do. We do stuff our own envelopes, so we can definitely.
That might be worth.
You mean a tax bill?
Yeah, because they typically go out the end of May.
Even though we do encourage Nottingham residents to get yours online to save the town money from the postage and the stamp and the paperwork that it goes to put it in there, like I get it online, you're welcome. Hey, Tom knows about saving that money over there. You got that, right?
What else?
yeah, so initially, he'll do his part of it. We come in after the fact. We have to wait for him to do his job before we can monitor what he does. We'll do something called a monitoring inspection report. Initially goes to him just in case there's any discrepancies of what we found. And then eventually it'll go to you guys to take a look at the report. And then the USPAP report, which I talked about before, it actually takes a long time because revals get done kind of all at the same time and they just start stacking up in my office and they're like this thick. So I have to review them all. So eventually, we'll make sure that everything's in there and we'll make sure it's compliant and, it'll be good to look at and all that stuff. We've spoken with Nancy Reese, who is the assessing clerk. It's 2025 is the assessment review year for Nottingham, which is also just kind of like we come in and check out your exemptions and credits, your current use, things like that, just to kind of give you guys an idea of the health of the assessing practices in town. So we'll look at that, make sure they're being reviewed, and that they're compliant with different laws and rules.
Nice.
And I think that's pretty much all I got.
Questions? Have any of you been here when the last reval happened?
Oh, yeah. I was the chairman of the Board of Assessors when we had one. Lucky me, yeah, fun. I think people are gonna freak out when they see the values.
Oh, yeah.
It's what it is. I mean, I built a brand new house 2 years ago, 3, or whatever it is, and I see what houses similar are selling for in town, and I know that it's gonna,
Nobody
we put up like
nobody
a-
could have predicted the COVID boom.
But I will say, people for, 22, 23, 24 kept saying, oh, it's gonna burst, you can't assess this for what the market is now. So
not bursting.
we're probably still gonna get it this time around, more so than before, but what we always tell them is that we can't assess for the future. We have to assess as of April 1st, 2025. So if anyone asks like that, I would just,
and people don't realize, like, in 2008, the house, when the thing plummeted, we did a reval right afterwards. And it was amazing to see the difference in the pricings from where they were going to where it was.
Yep.
And the tax rate changed, everything. It still stayed the same, but people's values everybody's values dropped in town.
Yep.
Because everything was so going through the roof in 06, 07.
yeah.
And when people saw it, they're like, oh my God, I lost $100,000 on my house. And you're like, well, it probably really wasn't worth
Still have to
that.
pay the same amount of tax.
Right, exactly. So,
And there's nothing big in the budget that might throw anything off?
nope.
Nope. There you go.
We don't know what the school's budget looks like, but for the downside, we're okay.
But we know what the school budget looks like.
Oh, well, I didn't, so.
We put out like an example sheet or something like, your assessed value was 450,000, approximately based on, it's gonna be, what was we saying, we're like 66% of value. This will be it. Do not be scared, like, this is what your current tax rate, it would end up working out so that, like, your tax should be the same. I don't know if we need to just put out this. so
I can
people
send you guys
understand.
I'll send you guys a copy of what we send out. It's
Yeah.
essentially like that. It basically looks at, here's your new value, here's the general level of change in town. If you're above this level, your tax burden can go up by a certain amount. If you're below that level, you can expect it to go down a little bit, but 90% of the community will probably be like right at that general level, because it's a pretty homogeneous town in terms of the types of property. So I don't see too much of, once they get that letter, I think most of the people will be
Okay.
calmed down. Whether or not they read the whole letter is
We just give them your cell phone number if they.
That'll
Home
be part of that
address, phone
stuffer.
number.
Yeah, but like a Reader's Digest for, something, let's say Reader's Digest, but, a simple way to put it. You're right, because if it's too long, people are just not gonna, they're gonna ignore it, it's not gonna see, it's,
We actually have one of our employees who
or if
retired.
you did like an average, say the average house in Nottingham that was $400,000 is now worth, it's now being valued at 5. I mean, I don't know if you could do something like that.
It's
but
tough.
just to
It's
show.
tough to do that, because even then, I don't think people will make the correlation, because not everyone's home will be at like that level. So the letter we send is done probably a pretty good job. And it's funny, because the iteration of that letter, if you've seen what it was in the 80s to what it is now, it's changed a ton. It's still one page, but it's changed a ton between what it was. We italicized, we bold, we color some of the font just to try to highlight the most important things for people. I think the one that we've done now where we didn't used to include that percent change, because we didn't want, I don't want to word this, we want to be fair and equitable. That's our job that's kind of like the mandate when we do this reevaluation, is the assessment should be market value, but also fair and equitable throughout town, right? The fear when we put that percent change in there is if someone sees their value and they say, oh, it's too high, but then they do the calculation that they're less than the general level of change in town, they're gonna be like, oh, well, my tax burden's the same where it's going down, so I don't need to go argue it. And it's like, we don't want you to look at the value, look at what your taxes are, and think, oh, you're fine because you're not changing. If you really feel like it's too high, we want to have that conversation with you and try to figure out why, or at least explain where it is, why it is where it is. So that was kind of our fear of always putting it in there, but in recent years, because of huge fluctuations, it was just, we should put it in there just so people know, and hopefully they still call, but yeah, I mean, we can only do so much.
Do you have any, common complaints you think the board should know about that we should be expecting from past revals of other towns?
The biggest one, and I don't know if it will happen here because I think we did it in 2020. The forever home value increase is kind of what I've been calling it. Whereas we got single family living, those types of properties in the past had gone up appreciably more than like a colonial or even capes in some cases have in the past. And the biggest.
Say it again.
Forever home?
Yeah, it's like the first floor living, where like I can live in it. I can live in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one floor living. I don't have to move because I can't go up and downstairs. So the that's something that has been played out since 2020. So I don't see that being an issue now. But a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll look at their assessments and they say, "Oh, Joe next door went up 60%. I went up 80%. This can't be fair and equitable. Like our percentage difference is not the same, therefore it's not equitable." And that's not really what's happening. It's what we're looking at is market value. Is the market value fair and equitable when you look at the two values side by side? So that's the biggest complaint that you might hear is people looking at their neighborhood and saying, "Oh, the whole neighborhood went up 40%, but I went up 60. It's not fair and equitable." In some cases, it might be like, "Oh, we called yours an A1 and everyone else is an A2. You should be an A2 like everyone else." So there are times where we find mistakes like that and people are like looking at the percent change and seeing a difference and associating that to fairness and equity. And it's really not. It's let's look at the total value. And if Joe's is 400,000 and you think yours should be worth equal to that, and they are, that's where you need to be at. Not Joe went up 20%, he's at 400,000. I went up 60%, I'm at 400,000. Yes, I think we could both sell our homes for the same amount, but I shouldn't go up 60%. That's some of the concerns we've been hearing. But those are the calls that we get in the hearings that we try to tell people. Like it doesn't matter why your value went up so much. It's just do you feel like that final assessment total is fair and equitable? That's really the biggest one I think you'll hear, other than the fact that the town went up 60, 70%.
Did your drive around just basically take a quick peek at the house to make sure it's still looks similar to what your report is already having?
It's to look at what's on the property record card is accurate, but also to compare it to what we did for our analysis. So if we were calling, a sale that was a cape that was in good condition, and we're looking at this one and it looks very similar, it should also be good condition, A1 cape. It's just making sure that what we did in our analysis, we are now applying and using throughout town. That's the fairness and equity part.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, are we still ahead of schedule? Nice, all right, good to go.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you guys,
Thank you guys for
appreciate
taking the
it.
time to come out and see us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Hopefully you guys don't get any angry calls.
Hey, Chad, if you get a chance, could you also send us like a sample of what you were just talking about, that piece you send out to people? The highlights and some of it? If just, so that the board could just look at it for our own leisure?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send that, I'll have it for you, what's today?
Monday?
Thursday?
Yeah, just drop it off in the selectman's office or whatever, that'll be fine, then we'll just pick it up from there or whatever.
Sounds good. All right, thanks guys, I'll be right back. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. guys.
Thanks.
Well, that was
Informative?
easy. Sure. I'm sure people are gonna be shocked when they see that number,
Yeah.
where the house is gonna go.
Of course, because as he stated, they're going to take their current tax rate and apply it to that new value. It's just,
Oh, it's gonna happen, yeah, everybody's,
yeah,
exactly, they're gonna see $20, 21,000, and go, oh my
and say,
God.
oh my God, exactly.
It went up $100,000, so now I'm gonna be paying,
It's not about that.
so, all right. Any action items or review, anybody got anything?
I will say one thing, I did sign up for the master plan committee,
Nice.
so we'll see how that goes. I figured somebody from the
Thank
select
you.
board should be on that. I don't know if
I don't know if anybody else has
She said,
turned in any interest.
yeah, she said there's 6 people,
Okay, excellent.
so.
That's good.
That is really good.
Thank you, everybody that signed up for vote, to register to be on the ballot for elections coming up in March. Thank you for all that volunteered, and we'll see what happens, but
I think there is still one vacant position on the budget committee
And zoning, right?
and zoning board, yes.
So if people want to run a.
Write-in campaign?
Write-in campaign, now's the chance.
And
Send out tell your friends and neighbors and.
the candidates that did put their name in, I updated that list and posted it to the website, so that's right under the news and announcements.
Perfect. Nice.
I have nothing. You guys are looking at me like I'm missing something, so am I missing something? Tell me if I am.
So if I may, next week, the town report, the town and school report will be going to the printer for publication. They'll be obviously binding it and having them ready. The goal is to have them out and available here at the town office on Friday, February 28th, if my date is correct. I think we have to legally have them out by March 1st, 10 days prior to the second session of our town meeting, which is our voting day. So that is the goal, to have them no later than that Friday. And I just wanted to put out any last minute thoughts for stuff that may be included as Nancy and I are finishing up the compilation this week. We do have a candidate for dedication, Kay Kyle, and
I don't know who he is.
she.
I don't know if she was.
Okay. So we have a write-up and a photo for her, but if there were any other thoughts. Kay Kyle, Kay, Kyle.
Sometimes the
It might be
toughest ones
K.A.
are the simplest way.
It might be Kaye.
Oh, screwed up now. All right, I'll pick a bunch of your brains later on for just things to write up, but I'll have that, I should have it all written up by Thursday at the latest.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm gonna be able to get most of it done tomorrow.
Okay,
So I'll try not to put it off to the last minute.
thank you. Appreciate that.
So, I already got my worksheet going, so we'll get there done.
Well, we're still pulling together like the last minute forms following deliberative session too. I just have to do that summary of changes from deliberative session and put a cover sheet to the town warrant. Make sure that's all in there.
Is everybody all right with the dedication to Kay Kyle?
They haven't, well, nobody's seen it yet.
I don't even know who she was, or is she? Is she dead? I don't know.
She has done some community service. I think she did have, I think she was active on the planning board, if I remember correctly.
If it's going out to the printers, we should probably,
And I apologize if I'm supposed to know, I just,
I've never,
The name sounds familiar, but I can't place her.
Yeah, how do you spell the last name?
Kyle.
That's supposed to be somebody, isn't it?
I'm terrible with names anyway, so.
is there anybody else?
So she was a member of the planning board for many terms. She was active participant in the Declaration of Independence readings at the 4th of July, Pea Soup Mondays.
Planning board, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Who recommended her?
Skip Severance.
Okay. All right.
I think I kind of recall.
Anyway, do you have anything?
no,
Do we have anything for non-public?
I can do a really brief one, but it's not necessary. I could probably hold over if you want to get out of here, or I can just take 5 minutes of your time.
It doesn't matter, we're here, so.
So under a
Good
personnel.
night, Tom, see you tomorrow, see you Wednesday.
Good Tom.
Good night.
So non-public under A
Night,
for
Steve.
personnel.
Any public comments?
I thought, in observing what I could, I thought the meeting was the town deliberative session was very well run. Except for one moment, I was very civil, people worked together, and I thought it fulfilled its goal of helping to clarify certain warrant articles, and actually help make them clearer. So from my point of view, that was a good meeting.
Thank you. That was the public comment for the end. We need, as soon as we leave non-public, we will be adjourning the meeting, exactly right after. But we need a roll call for non-public, and we need a motion first, sorry. Yep.
Make a motion to move into non-public per RSA 91-A:3, 2A.
Second.
We have a motion, a second roll call vote.
Aye, Steve Welch.
Hi, John Decker.
Hi, John Moran.
Aye, Tim DeBrio.
Aye, Matt Sherlin.
All right, thank you very much, Nottingham. Good nights.